Beyond the ballot it is. Good evening and welcome to The Insight, your weekly source for insightful analysis and discussion on the latest developments in local and international politics. I'm your host, Eugene Chienkwach, and I'm excited to bring you another episode filled with engaging conversations and expert insights. Each week we'll be tackling the most pressing political issues of our time, from the latest policy decisions to the most controversial news stories. We'll be joined by a diverse group of political commentators, experts and insiders who will provide their unique perspectives and opinions on the topics at hand. From elections and governance to diplomacy and global affairs, we'll cover it all on this show. We'll also take a closer look at the individuals shaping the political landscape, from elected officials to activists and thought leaders. So sit back, relax and join us for an in-depth exploration of the world of politics. Without further ado, let's dive into tonight's discussion. Our discussion tonight has been dubbed Beyond the Ballot. This is because tonight we seek answers around three major issues touching on the Kenya Kwanza government. Now, the Deputy President's controversial remark of equating Kenya Kwanza government to a company with shareholders will be our first. The second is the scramble for CAS position. The third, the austerity measures taken by the Kenya Kwanza government. My guest for the show tonight are, one close to me is Mr. Wesley Jeff Kuria, who is a lawyer and the National Youth Chairman, representative for the Service Party. We also have Mr. Cyrus Litso, who is a public policy analyst. We have Mr. Mesha Kudede, who is a public policy and governance expert, also joining us on the show tonight. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining us on the show tonight. And of course, first things first, even as we delve into the discussions of the topic today, the question is that Raila has made an ultimatum to the government concerning a massive mass action should the government fail to consider the issues that he has raised concerning lowering the cost of living and halting the process of appointing IBC officials, amongst other issues. I will start with you, Mr. Odede. What do you think about this issue on Raila's ultimatum to the government?
Thank you, Eugene. And I think it is something that any of the Kenyan population would say, that generally the cost of living is high for the people. Mm-hmm. But I don't think that is the unique part of everything. Mm-hmm. The biggest thing is the expectations of Kenyans on this government mm-hmm. was quite high. Mm-hmm. And so that makes things even worse. Mm-hmm. It's like when you're betrayed by a stranger mm-hmm. and when you're betrayed by a friend, mm-hmm. it's more painful when you're betrayed by a friend than when you're betrayed by a stranger. Mm-hmm. So the hustlers, the so-called mama mboga, huyu mtu wa boda boda, have the feeling that immediately Biblia imewekwa chini, things will change. Mm-hmm. And so this is the most painful. So I think Raila is taking advantage of this to push other agendas and bring Kenyans around this, rally Kenyans around this cost of living, to push government and also inside push other agendas like electoral injustices and things like that. That's what I think is happening
Mr.
at this
Liswa,
point.
the ultimatum is to do this in 14 days. What is your view on this?
Thank you for having me on the show, and I appreciate. At the look of things, yes, the economy is doing bad, not only in this country, but also globally. The economy is not doing good globally. And this is one of the things that our leaders were privy to. When they were campaigning, they knew that the global economy is not doing good. But you gave us promises. you promised us to do this, to deliver this during this time. But the question is, right now, you've not delivered. So from where some of us sit, we understand or we understood that the economy is doing poorly, not only in the country, but globally.
Okay.
But when you come, because you understand that you are more informed than the other people from where they are. Now you take their let me say, innocence or their ignorance for your advantage, to promise them that you'll deliver this in a certain period of time, at which you cannot deliver. When you talk of the reduction of prices of basic commodities, which has taken long, these are, because why am I saying that these are people who are privy to everything that was happening? Remember, the president right now was the deputy president. The deputy president was a member of parliament, serving the parliament, the 12th parliament. So these people were fully aware of the economic times that we are having worldwide.
Okay.
Now you come and give us hope where you cannot deliver.
Okay.
So austerity measures or whatever measures, ultimatums that the former prime minister has given, the question is, are they workable? Are they going to work?
Okay. We'll
Are
get
they
into that.
redeemable? After 14 days, what are we going to see from the former prime minister? Is it that a political statement that is used to giving, or is it the same thing, or is it are we going to chant a new direction?
Okay.
These are some of the things that we need to look into and find answers to us, because the other time the president responded to it, saying that atutishwi, we are ready for it.
Okay, Liso. Let me come to Mr. Kuria. Mr. Kuria, you're among the very vibrant youths in the making of the Kenya Kwanza coalition, and you are the forefront, of course, appending signatures of what actually you'd want the youths maybe to the youthful, the hustlers, what you expected actually. And I want to ask you in this view, your expectation as the youth and one of the leaders then, are they being met? And what is your view on the ultimatum that Raila has given?
Wonderful. First of all, thank you very much, Eugene, for inviting me again. It has been quite a while since I've been here. It's a pleasure to be back. Allow me to pass greetings to your viewers of GBS TV, and more specifically, viewers from my own county, Laikipia County, where I hail from, and this is the place to be. Now, on your question, how do I view, I'll answer the question of the former Prime Minister's ultimatum in this way. The Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga has become a master of reinvention and opportunism. When the election ended, everyone thought that now Raila does not have another card to play, because this was the election that seemingly he was supposed to win, because he had a lot of backing from establishment and even traditional bases that he did not occupy, even in the slightest before. So we thought that if there is ever going to be a time, that was the time. So now, in the onset of an election loss, people thought he had nowhere else to go. So this is not new. This is a card he has played so many times, it has become part of him. It is nothing to write home about, because when he lost the first election, he rejected the results. The second, the third, the fourth. I have seen this pattern myself, being a young man in this country. I have seen this pattern repeat itself 4 times. I have seen, 3 times. I've seen it in the 2007 elections. We know how that ended. I saw it in 2013, and I saw it in 2017, which was the first time I voted, and now I have seen it again, so 4 times. So this is nothing new. He always gives ultimatums. He always wants a certain amount of irreducible minimums. It's always a different terminology for the same thing. One day it's irreducible minimums, the next day it's ultimatum. It's always something. Now, with regards to the 14 days, my panelist here has mentioned something very important. What do we expect to see?
Okay.
And I think we will address that as we go on, but as at now, I feel like this is not a new, this is well within Raila Amolo Odinga's script. It is something he's used to, and it's something he's going to pursue.
But the
for as
question
long
that I
as
want
it
to
goes.
ask you is that you are among the youths that were actually there. And you had expectations as a youth and as one of the leaders of the youths of this country.
Yes.
Do you think your expectations are being met?
Well, in politics, the first thing you need to understand is
yes or no?
politics are guided by interests, and expectations have to emerge. For example, I know where you are alluding to. I was there during the signing of the Youth Charter of Kenya Kwanza, and the pursuit of youth inclusion in politics is not static pre-election.
Okay.
It goes on post-election. If you're not aware, right now within the Kenya Kwanza fraternity, we are also agitating for the youth quota to be met within governmental appointments.
Okay.
You have seen the MP Jerry Maina do that alongside my brother and friend Wakili Jesse Saruni. We have been pushing for youth to be included in the governmental appointments, and we will continue pushing because this is not an issue just write down and stay static and hope. You have to still pursue.
Okay. I get you quite clearly, and I want us to delve down deeply into the stories of the day, of the night, actually, that we wanted to discuss. And of course, the first one was the Deputy President's controversial remark of equating Kenya Kwanza government to a company whereby the shareholders have to eat first before the others can be served. And I want to ask you, maybe, what do you think about this equation of Kenya Kwanza government to a private company with shareholders, Mr. Meshak Odede?
Thank you. You know, I'm listening to Jeff. I'm wondering, does these things even come to sync? Because here you are pushing for maybe agenda of the youth quota in governmental appointments. I would simply ask, how many so far have been met? Women were given 50% of the cabinet. How many so far was given? Because this was purely the president and probably the deputy president in consultation appointing. So there was nobody else, and that was not met. So how do you think the youth, the one for the youth, is going to even be met? That is one. Then number two, coming to the deputy president, you realize that that is the thinking. So let's not even look at the so-called government run as a company by shares in terms of the opposite side of the coalition or the political groupings. Just take it and apply it within Kenya Kwanza. It means once you equate it to company by shares, it means even inside the Kenya Kwanza, some people have more shares than the other. So the whole Kenya Kwanza will be looking at ODM, Wiper, and the Azimio like they are the ones who are being talked about. My friend, it is even inside, because in the Kenya Kwanza now, like your party TSP, what shares do you now think you have against UDA and maybe other parties? So I think that analogy is completely wrong for deputy president, because if I was part of Kenya Kwanza, I would be terrified that even though I am part of Kenya Kwanza, but how much is my shares here? Because it is now shares and nothing else. So the question you are asking again would go back to what my friend is talking about.
Yes.
What is now the shares of the youth then?
Yeah.
If it is about owning this government by shares, now as a young person, you should ask yourself, does the young people have good shares enough to bargain on the table with this government? Because it is now purely shares.
Yeah.
So everything we think about, we look at the shares we have vis-a-vis our space. So I think youth should be worried and ask themselves the hardest question that many of them might not want to. Does the youth have enough shares to sit on the table and discuss and get what they would love to get as the youth of the country, let alone the other side of the coalition. The other side of the coalition can play their role there. But the ones inside, are they comfortable? Are they thinking that, yes, as a young person, this is my government and I have enough shares? But now the worst thing, when you now take the same thing and apply to the rest of the country, it can only mean that Bwana DP is telling Kenyans that some of you will pay taxes that will run this government, that will pay the salaries of the people we are appointing.
Okay.
But you will never come close to this because you do not have shares. So according to DP, shares is the vote. But according to the natural law of justice, shares should be taxes, because it is taxes that runs the entire government.
Okay. Mr. Liso, I think, Jeff, you'll get to answer what measure of shares. How do you measure shares between the Kenya Kwanza
the government?
Yeah. I don't know if you leave other people who are not within Kenya Kwanza.
Yes.
But again, Mr. Liso,
Yes.
In your opinion, what actually should UDA prioritize? Because this is a conversation that people are asking, should we have this conversation, or a person of maybe the deputy president, should they have this conversation or not? But and most people are of the idea that, no, this is not a conversation that we should have. But what again are the priorities that they should have now that they are in power? Should they focus on benefiting their supporters first, or should they strive for a more inclusive approach? What's your opinion?
We are a democratic nation. This is not a monarchy. This is a democratic nation. When we go for elections, you either be voted for or not be voted for. Okay? That's what we call democracy. And that is expected. So the narrative of coming and telling us that you didn't vote for us, so when we are sharing a cake, it means the people who voted for us are going to get the bigger share, then that's not democracy. I think I can term the deputy president like a village boy who has just been brought to the city and seen a skyscraper. Now he's perplexed and amazed and wonders, what am I going to do? Should I own this place? And how am I going to own this place? Should I grab it? And if I grab it, how will I grab it? So that's how I take the deputy president to be. Those are the words I can use to describe him in the way he is. Because remember, the office of the presidency, we are not talking about the president. Under the new constitution, we have the presidency. Okay? That's the president and the deputy president, who are all elected together. Okay? Under the democratic constitution that we have. Now, when you are a symbol of national unity, now you come and tell me I'm the leader of UDA and the president is the... What are you telling us? Seriously? What are you telling us?
Your opinion generally on...
This, whatever they are driving us to, okay, is what we call divide. Okay? You are dividing a nation into a party and into something else that we don't understand.
Yes.
So when what we expect right now from the leadership of UDA and Kenya Kwanza, because this UDA stroke Kenya Kwanza. So what we expect from the leadership of UDA stroke Kenya Kwanza, and my friend Jeff will agree with me, it is UDA stroke Kenya Kwanza, because they are just there in Kenya Kwanza partially on the executive, but on the presidency it is UDA. Okay? So what we expect from them is service delivery. Remember, these are the people who are chest thumping, blowing the trumpets, saying how they are going to give us services, how they are going to change this nation, how they are going to be like Kibaki. You see, so we expect them to give us services. We don't expect us, as I said earlier on, they knew that we are in very difficult economic times globally, but they gave us hope. Where were they going to get these things from? Where were they going to get money from? So that to ensure we have irrigation, so as to ensure we have electricity on a lower cost, so that to ensure we have cooking gas at a lower cost, so that to ensure we have petrol and diesel at a lower cost. So where were they trying to tell us they are going to get these funds to ensure that every Kenyan does not suffer the way he's suffering today economically? We cannot have food on the table. So we thought the hustler thought the Bodabona and the Mamamboga thought they are going to have things easy as they were said on the political rallies.
Okay. Mr. Kuria, you have heard what they've said. Actually, it's not just them, but so many people are criticizing Gachagwa's comment as promoting cronyism and is there to benefit only a select few. Generally, what's your perspective of this?
The way I see the statement, I exist within a political sphere of realism. You have to accept reality as it is. What the Deputy President said is something people know, but have never had it get said out loud. And this is what is causing this national stir. Because, and I will give you examples. In Uhuru Kenyatta's government, when he was forming government together with the now President Ruto, it was clear that they prioritized those people that were around them then. You put merit around the same people who are with you. And this is the same process and mechanism that President Ruto has taken even now. This is not something new. It is not something that he's coming to say. It's just that now Kenyans are used to politically correct style politicians. Our Deputy President that we have...
So is there a problem in saying it?
There's no problem in saying it. You see, we also have to be, like I said, realistic, yes? If I communicate, how you choose to comprehend is up to you. I am not responsible for your comprehension, and this is the reason why I'll tell you that. Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua is not your run-of-the-mill average politician that we are used to. You know, somebody who will try and oil the words, who will try and say it in a polite way. He comes off as a rugged, rough around the edges kind of politician. And this is actually the truth. As Odede has put it clearly, he has asked the question of even the framework within Kenya Kwanza. And Liswa has answered him. We are in Kenya Kwanza, but in the presidency, there's only UDA. So at some decisions and calls of the government, the buck will stop at that level. And that is just the nature of democracy. When you choose a side, when you choose a particular political path, the consequence of that political path will definitely follow you. And when you look at what Rigathi Gachagua is doing right now, he's just emphasizing on what people know, and people are just so pressed about it because they've never had someone else say it before. Look at, and you can see the divide between realism and politics.
But don't you think that these statements are actually could potentially harm UD's reputation? Because yes, it has been done before. It is not a new thing, but him saying it coming from the deputy president.
So are we saying that we are going to crucify him when he ran on a campaign and a platform of saying, I am a truthful man?
Okay.
Are you going to crucify him for that? It is simply ludicrous to say that. Now, it's like now when you tell me, if you employ...
Mr. Kwach.
Wait, let me finish. Allow me to finish. When you say...
In 10 seconds.
Yes. When you say that you elect a person who is headstrong, you expect him to get into the position of leadership and drop his headstrong nature that you elected him on.
Okay.
Mr.
This is not new.
Okay, gentlemen, we are taking a very quick and short break, but we're coming back for this discussion further.
Yes.
Kindly stay with us. This is the GBS TV Africa to Jinochien. Quatch to the 144 is our SMS line, and continue with the discussion even as we get more from you guys.
Na kukaribisha tena katika makao makuu yako katika ulimwengu wa michezo.
Yoga is not a sport. Yoga is actually a way of life.
Ukiona FIFA inaingilia kati, it means that the FIFA rules have been violated.
From day one akiingia kwa akademi yako, unamwambia masomo na talent lazima ziende. The moment nasikia masomo imeenda chini, hata time out. Hata hiyo time out kwa football na kando.
Yeah, wanawake ni wengi actually mpaka saa hizi. Tumekaa ni kama tumekuwa wanawake wamekuwa wengi kuliko wanaume.
Kuna wale ambao ni artistic.
Yes, wanapenda mambo ya kuigiza.
I am coded to look for solutions.
You limit yourself, not the sport doesn't limit you.
we say a dedicated women-only show that focuses only on women.
Academy is one of the activities of IYF. IYF being an NGO focused on the empowerment of the youth, we have various activities. So one of the program now is the IYF Weekend Academy. It started way back in the year 2009. And through this, we want to empower the youth with the soft skills that are necessary for their growth. So we prepare various academies, various programs so that they can be able to be nurtured in terms of the soft skill that's needed. We say we supplement what education is doing. Education is teaching them the knowledge part of it, but for us in the Weekend Academy, we want to give that platform where they can be able to now practice what they have learned.
So my name is Eric Maura. Currently I'm doing camera operation. IYF is very important because one of the things I've gotten a chance to learn a lot through camera operation. I've also gotten a chance to host one of the shows known as Sport Zoom. So IYF is very good because even camera operation, I did not know there are different types of cameras. I did not know how to operate a camera, but through IYF, I've gotten a chance to know all this.
The IYF Weekend Academy teacher for the camera operations. It has been a nice experience seeing young men coming, learning things to do with filming, and also bringing out the passion that lays underneath. Then I'm very much happy because I know and I believe that soon they will also make a living out of it.
Everywhere, GBS.
Thank you so much for staying with this live broadcast. This is The Insight, of course. And we're still continuing with this conversation. To the one before is our SMS line at GBS TV Africa at Eugene Ochieng-Kwach. And these three gentlemen are still with me here. And we want to talk about the scramble for the CAS positions and actually what it means and what actually even what it means and pertain to the common mwananchi generally. And the appointment of CAS has been criticized as being too political with little regard for merit or qualifications. And generally, if I can start with you, Mr. Odede, if I can just get your overall remarks or what you actually think about the creation of the CS position. Do you think it is even necessary or is it a waste of resources, according to you, sir?
You see, even in 2017, when Uhuru and William came up with the positions of Chief Administrative Secretary, some of us didn't agree with him because purely that's a position that is just rewarding political figures who probably may have supported your campaigns or may have vied and were not successful in their vision or mission. But if you remove the position, because we never had it before, so if you remove it, how else is Kenya going to get in harm's way for a minute or so? Nothing. I mean, if we don't, right now we don't have them. But is there something that we can say, this one is lacking in the life of a hustler? Let's just use the tone of campaign. Munataka tubadilishe katiba ama tubadilishe uchumi. In that, where is the CAS coming in? I mean, how can Kenya Kwanza government say today that without chief administrative secretaries, we will not be able to pull these people from bottom up? I mean, there is nothing. So purely that is a position that is just going to get Kenyans paying taxes and people with major shares, I mean, spending that taxes. Yes.
Okay. Litswa,
yes.
How do you think the existence of CS positions affect the power dynamics within the government generally?
Actually, during the first term of President Uhuru Kenyatta and Ruto as his deputy, they didn't have the CAS, but they did work. We didn't see any deficit. We didn't see any issue. No Kenyan went to court and raised concerns that we don't have assistant ministers stroke CASs, so we need them. No. But after the election in 2017, it was a matter of how can we reward the people who supported
What I get
us.
your point is the reward. Now,
Yes.
we have PSS, we have ministers,
Yes.
which is cabinet secretaries. Generally, how does it, now, what are the roles of the CAS? What is the CAS coming to do? Mesha Kodede says that in the context of bottom-up economic model and the context of where we are right now politically, it doesn't see the CAS position as coming to fulfill any further what we are now experiencing. You get it?
Yes.
Now, when the CS comes, what do you think? How will it affect the power dynamics?
One, CS is not going to change anything from my own perspective. Not going to change anything, be it from the governance point or from the service delivery to the common mwananchi. It's going to change nothing. The status quo remains the same, number one. As I have said, these are a matter of rewarding your people who supported you, number one. Number two, remember, I want to emphasize and I want to use the short story by Ken Saro-Wiwa, Africa Kills Her Son. This is now a true reflection of that story. Okay? One, the CS position was termed as illegal by the courts. The time of the former President Uhuru Kenyatta. So they were in office illegally. So they stayed in office illegally. Why is it that when President Ruto took over power from the former President Uhuru Kenyatta, why is it that he didn't appoint CAS immediately the way he appointed PS and CS? Because the issue was in court. But what did he manage to do? Using his own wisdom, he untwisted the judiciary. I'll use that word. He untwisted the judiciary so that to favor his, he has pocketed the judiciary so that nothing will go to judiciary, okay, that will be affecting the presidency, okay, that will see, let me say, the dark part of the day. Everything will sail through. Why? Because these people are eating on the same table. Now, the judiciary is not independent the way it was before. Number one, it is just but a shell. We talk of it being independent in pictures and in cameras, but behind the scenes, there are what we call, there are puppets. Why am I saying so? Remember, we have three arms of the government. Number one, the executive, okay? Number two, the legislature, okay? And number three, the judiciary. The executive is well controlled by the president himself. The legislature, now the president has managed to marshal full support from both houses, okay? When you go to Senate, he's getting full support. Why? That when a bill is tabled in parliament or a vetting is done in parliament, whatever thing that is taken to parliament will see the light of the day.
Okay. Mr. Kuria, I'm on your case, and actually there's what Mr. Odedia said, that these are merely creations to reward political loyalists generally. And of course, he has brought in some legal issues that the CAS positions actually should not even exist there constitutionally. And now it begs the question, what is the role of the CAS positions? And their roles generally, or their existence, should they be re-evaluated? What do you think? From where you sit?
From my perspective, the only possible role that a CAS position would play would be in the vein of an assistant minister in case there is a vacuum of leadership. It is the same thing that we faced in the previous dispensation, where the roles of the deputy president were not clear until there was a divide between the executive. Now then people started noticing that truly this is an office that someone can occupy without having exactly anything to do. So it is pretty much the same with the CS. And what I like about this discourse is that people think that when you're on one side of the government, you cannot accept, or when you're on one side of a conversation, you cannot accept what is real and what is not. Again, I've said I exist within a sphere of realism, and I've said those positions are purely specific for only in an assistant ministerial kind of role. But to answer a question you asked me on the youth, because that is a question that is also coming up in the CAS appointments, I want you to see the mood and the temperature within the Kenya Kwanza administration with regards to this CAS position. We have seen legislators from that side come out and say that these positions should not be a preserve of rewarding people who have failed elections. And that is why, for that pure reason, I can say if these positions are to serve to win leaders, young leaders into positions of political leadership, then that is a good investment. Because in the end of the day, there has to be transition, because countries, leadership, politics, governance exists in perpetuity. You cannot, and we will cure some of these problems, because another mistake people make is assuming that political appointments made by the executive are not qualified or are not merit-based. As I was discussing with my panelists earlier, we as the voter bloc of this country also have ourselves to blame, because politicians purely become what we require them to. Previously, I like giving this example because it is quite clear. The CS of Industries and Moses Kuria. Moses Kuria has always been known as a fiery politician, a firebrand politician. But it is because that is the kind of nature that his political constituent demanded him to be. But before that, he is a man experienced within his profession. So when he is being appointed, this is not a politician being appointed. This is not a politician being appointed. This is a person with requisite experience in his field. So on these positions with respect to the youth, what I've realized within this discourse of youth appointments is that people expect big name youths to be named so that we can say that the youth are benefiting. But I have said, I have been there through the process of Kenya Kwanza. And as we progress, we are only 6 months into this administration. I can see direction being taken with respect to what we signed. And I'll give you an example. One of the most active CSs right now is ICT CS Eli Dowalo. You have seen what he is doing. He is setting up the infrastructure for a digital highway so that we can facilitate the digital economy. With respect to that, in corroboration with the Ministry of Sports and Talent, headed by Ababu Namwamba, they have recently introduced a creative task force. As much as some of those appointments within the task force are questionable, there is intent by the government. You look at it even in, this is a proposal that I specifically made within that discourse of local labor resourcing, where if a project is being done within a particular locale, you should not export manpower from outside while they are jobless using that. Case example, and this is coming from a legislator from the opposite side of the divide. Let me just make this point in 20 seconds. Felix Odiwuor Jalango was quoted saying that this project of affordable housing will employ almost 3,000 youths in Langata. So those are some of the things that we signed for in the youth charter. But we don't expect that Wesley to be appointed so that we say that the youth representative is there.
Coach, a minute, Coach.
Yes, a second.
As much as I may agree with my brother here, also I may want to give my dissenting voice on the same. CAS position as they term to be youthful, those youths who are in leadership, nurturing the leaders of tomorrow. I can say it has not to be the CS position. Because when you still go to that list of people who have been shortlisted for that list, okay? They are old people, 50 plus years above, okay? Number 2, the CS for sports, Ababu Namwamba, was quoted saying, appointing CS right now, it's like, let me say, like a waste of time, waste of money, and waste of resources. And he said, why can't we employ the 4,000 doctors, okay, who will take care of our people, okay? Meaning, even he himself, he has seen it as a waste of time. And remember, he was a CAS in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. So he has been there, which means he has been doing nothing. When you try to merge the two, the statements from one person who has been in that position, coming out talking in that manner. Another thing that I want to add to is, when we want to empower youths, okay, we have parastatals, we have boards, let us now nurture these youths, okay, in these parastatals, in this board, because from there they become PAS, okay, or PS. From there they become CS. So we can nurture these youth in those angles. We can nurture qualified youths, okay, in the area of profession, as he has said it clearly. We should not hire people. The government should not hire people from outside to do jobs, but get the local
Mr.
people.
Neswa, it's okay. Let me give chance to Mr. Dede, maybe to talk about this issue.
Yeah, let me put it like this, Eugene. We don't need the positions of chief administrative secretaries in this country. With regards to the issue of the court earlier, the court was looking at the process, not the position per se. So the process by which Uhuru brought them was not the process that the law allows, because they are supposed to apply through the Public Service Commission, get shortlisted, interviewed, and all that. But if you look at the process, the things we do in Kenya sometimes amazes me, because in the Constitution 2010, we said we do not want assistant ministers. But now we are bringing assistant ministers through the back door, and the young people who are supposed to, quote unquote, defend this Constitution because they are the ones who will be there when Railas and the rest are not there, are the Jeffs who are thinking that position should actually be there, given to the youth. So look at how we are behaving. So if we didn't want the assistant ministers, why are we going through the back door, bringing it, looking for a way to bring it in the name of we want youth to occupy them? What has stopped William Ruto from making Jeff here the Minister for Sports? What has stopped him from making any other youth the Minister for this or the PS for that? When it comes to that, because the reason for the Constitution to have us go through the Public Service Commission for interviews is to get your skill in the position you are looking for. But here, we are looking for a amorphous thing. What we are doing is, I am just applying to be Chief Administrative Secretary, I don't know in which docket. And then we are going to be wholesomely taken through the process, and then the president will now say, Meshach, I can put Meshach in industrialization. When Meshach is not passionate about industrialization, has nothing, no knowledge on industrialization, bora tu nimewekwa. Because the reason for a constitution to demand that you go through the panel and be interviewed, we need to know your knowledge on a specific job. That is how the corporate works, and that is why they grow faster. But in politics and in Africa, we want to bring Jeff to Ministry of Agriculture, has no knowledge in agriculture. The only thing we are going to look at in the interview is how well dressed, how well can he speak, and all that. So that is why purely I'm saying we do not need the position of Chief Administrative Secretary, period.
Thank you so much, gentlemen. It was indeed a great discussion. But again, the third issue that we were to discuss tonight was the austerity measures taken by the Kenyan government. And which I want us to delve into a bit because of time.
Yes.
We are not going to take much time in it. So let me just start with you, Mr. Liswa, to get your general opinion on the security measures taken by the Kenyan government to reduce public debt and control government spending. Your general view on this.
Number one, my general view is I say, and I'll put it this way, it's like UDA. As I said, and I thank Jeff confirmed what I said. UDA, the presidency, and Kenya Kwanza, the executive. Okay? Now, UDA is still in the campaign mode. When they come and talk of the austerity measures they give us, they give us austerity measures like we are in campaign. Implementation of the austerity measures is not well known, number one. No timeline for implementation of the austerity measures. They don't think that whatever measures we are going to give, what impact are they going to have to the common mwananchi and even that business, the private business person that's doing business in this way, okay? So we want taxes. How are we going to earn these taxes when we put so much austerity measures, okay? And yet we want taxes. So where are we going to get this money from? Okay? Now, when you talk of increasing the taxes, have you worked on creating employment? Okay? The employment levels are still the same way they were. Okay? In fact, they have really gone down. So what are we going to do to increase the employment rate in this country so that we can have high taxes? You increase taxes, but there's no employment. You increase taxes, but there's no salary. No salary increment, and yet you are talking of increasing taxes. So it is like they are still campaigning. So they should shed off the campaign regalias and put on service delivery regalias.
Kuria, what's your opinion on this? What measures do you think the Kenyan government could have taken to address the economic challenges facing the country?
I want to be very clear, and for no confusion or doubt, I have been a long-term supporter of the president, William Ruto, as the man. And testament to that, everyone who opposes the president at this point opposes the president to such a high regard. My fellow panelists have mentioned time and time again that they made promises. The president made promises during his campaign period. What I like about that situation is that the only reason someone is held to such high regard is simply because the potential they hold is well known. So about the austerity measures that are being taken by the Kenyan government, what people don't want to admit is that this government is still young. As at now, the people who are being replaced in parastatals, in government bodies, are still people who are within the former regime. And you cannot castigate the president for trying to bring people who align with his path, his vision, because sometimes the vision holder is the person who can see it most clearly. And when you have someone who was within the vision of the previous administration, it may become a problem to do the job. As you've seen now, they've replaced the Director General of KRA to bring in someone who maybe the president can work better on his agenda of collection of tax. What people don't want to admit is that this government is still within the process of finding a foothold. We have to at least give them to the point where the president reads his first budget. The president promised, and please call us on a show the next time, when he reads his budget so that we can come and dissect his budget, because one of his main key areas was economic cutting down of expenditure. We need to see that in the budget. But right now, he's in the process of collecting the money that will help him see what he can actually implement in the budget process. But we are already sitting and jumping and saying that
cutting the budget, and he has increased his own budget to 60% from the way it was.
It's okay.
The state of budget.
Allow me to handle.
Going forward, what can we
allow me to handle this question?
Yes.
The austerity measures. From where I see it, there is no austerity measure at all. This is how I look at it. Ruto William, Rigathi Gachagua, and the entire Kenya Kwanza team campaigned on the platform of bringing the people down the ladder up here, bottom up. And this is why we are using the terms like Mama Mboga na huyu mtu wa boda boda. That was the platform.
Yes.
So allow me to handle it from that perspective and that platform. Number one, when you win an election, quote unquote, which some of us do not accept, that will be another discussion another day. But when you win, allow me to assume that he won the election fair and square. So what did we expect as Kenyans? Number one, the president takes oath and is deputy. That oath means he will defend the security of Kenyans and the constitution. So the Kenyan, whether voted or did not vote, voted him or voted opponents, need to feel secure. Have we seen security? We have seen more insecurity in this term. But Jeff wants to push us to accept that this government is still very young. I want to remind Jeff that in the campaign, the tone was, there is nothing like that. And I remember one of the interviews with William Ruto, that the insecurity in the northern part and the part of Rift Valley was sponsored by opponents, which were government then, to stop him from getting into power. Is he in power? Maybe he's doubting he's still not in power. Because if he knew he is in power, right now he would have stopped it. Uhuru is not even in the country right now. Why can't he stop it? He sends Kindiki. Kindiki goes there and sings soprano. Those guys shoot everybody right there when he is there. Is Uhuru still sponsoring those people? I don't know. So on matter security, no austerity measure I can talk about. Then people expected after security, the cost of living would come down. Those are major things. Has the cost of living come down? During the tone of campaign, these people called cartels were minting money from us as Kenyans. And Uhuru and his friend Raila were calling those subsidies. So when we take government, we are going to reduce the cost of living and we are going to remove the cartels from this system. Globally, the logic will demand that if there is cartel in the business and the cartel gets their cut, that business will cost the consumer higher. But apparently what we're seeing is opposite. When there were cartels, we were buying fuel cheaper. When there were cartels, we were buying unga cheaper. When the cartels have been removed, we are now buying it even higher. Just relax, gentlemen, relax. I am giving you a dose. So when there were cartels, we bought everything cheaper. When Ruto and his team have removed all cartels, we are now buying everything higher. Life has become impossible. Do you want to say that is austerity measure? No. So after that, what did Kenyans expect? Kenyans expected things like corruption to end. What did we see? All the people who had cases of corruption in court have all been removed, including Rigiji have got his 200 million back. Is that an austerity measure, Jeff? No. What did Kenyans expect to see on matters corruption? We needed, because he said, you are weaponizing the team who are supposed to deal with corruption. When we come in, we will give them a budget. Budget has been given. Here we have a DPP who now says, we didn't have anything against these people. We were forced to do this. But the logical question a young man like Jeff should ask himself is, if that other president would be able to push him to do the things he did, how are we safe today that William cannot? Because we know William is more ruthless than Uhuru Kenyatta. Because they themselves said in 2017 and 2022 that when the case was pulled by Maraga, it is Ruto who stood. Uhuru had given up. So you confirm to us that Ruto is stronger than Uhuru 10 times. So can Ruto...
I am informed by my director.
Do I give us reply?
Give us
The director needs to let me finish.
Yes.
I also need to...
My director
So
requested
finally, just the last one then.
Yes.
The last one. The last one. After all that, we needed economy to come back, build the economy, because the campaign tone was... Tunataka, we want to change the economy, bring back the economy. What have we seen? What we have seen is higher taxes, trying to put on more taxes on Kenyans who are already down, suffering. But what did we have as an austerity measure on economy? We went to pray.
Okay.
The only difference is we pray on two things, Eugene.
Okay.
We pray when we have done something to thank God for enabling us. Or we pray that, Lord, we need your miracle because we know nothing about this thing. So we only pray for
Jeff, in a minute.
I want him also to respond on mine. There's something I want to bring up so that we respond together. Now, Jeff, when you talk of, I want to also remind him, when you talk of austerity measures, 30 seconds, now, there are things that also have been, they were mentioned. Let me talk of, why am I forgetting them? Let me talk of these.
Just allow me to respond. Let me say this.
Then I'll come back.
Has made a very passionate submission.
Yes.
But that passionate submission is very subjective. Because, for example, when he talks about the fuel subsidies, he has completely ignored that the fuel subsidies did not come out of nowhere. This was an IMF proposal. And even if, as he said, even if the Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga won, because the separation between those two candidates was 200,000. If he would have met himself in the same problem. Because the IMF comes back and claims we had a deal and the government is supposed to execute that deal. Now, Ruto has decided that with respect to the fuel subsidies, we cannot continue with the same negotiation deal.
Our time is over. Thank you so much for this candid conversation. So grateful for accepting my invite for the insight. Of course, I'll call you again when the president reads his budget so that we can get to discuss.
I didn't even say something on that budget. Eugene, the nini is already out. The budget policy statement is already out, which tells us that he has increased the budget from 3.6 trillion to 3.9.
Okay.
And this is a man who got a budget and said we need to reduce it by 300,000.
Thank you, Mr. Dede. On behalf of everyone who has made this a success, I'm very grateful. And of course, we wish you a very good night. To the wonderful voice of our SMS line at GBS TV Africa at Eugene Ochieng. This is the Insight, where we get to delve in issues that actually affect you through the eyes of different stakeholders. Now, thank you so much. My name is Eugene Ochieng.